with the script and end with the script for this presentation because almost unbeknown to us when we were composing the script, we included a whole lot of phrases that have kind of a meaning in what I'm trying to present today. We're continuing the theme of unmet needs, but we're not going to the technical aspect of it, of what's an unmet need, what's not, how do we register it, that kind of thing. I think we've got that nailed down. I'm seeing some real good data come through these days in terms of unmet needs and even multiple unmet needs in the same area for callers when they're applicable. So I think it's a little bit more along the lines of soft skills that some of us sort of almost do most of the time, but aren't quite sure why. And others are not real comfortable and could use a little bit of guidance on them. I've highlighted a couple things on the script because, for example, I can check on that for you. It does a couple of things. It encourages your caller. It tells them, hey, I'm going to do something for you. And then secondly, it lets them know that you're going to try and help. You know, that what you are about to do, whether it results in help along the lines of what they've asked for or not is a whole different question, but you're going to try. And that can be very encouraging to a caller. And then in our script, I think we often overlook suggested phrases, or one phrase anyway, for unmet need when we bump into one of those unmet needs. And it's, I want to explore all avenues that could possibly be helpful. Could you tell me a little more about the situation and what happened? Now that's just a pull it out of the hat kind of phrase, open-ended question to hopefully open your caller up to begin talking about some additional information that might be helpful to you and take you in another direction. Help you problem solve with them. And then our post-referral, I think, also helps because, and I see this overlooked pretty much 99% of the time, but when we stop and summarize what a caller's next step will be, they hang up with a direction. And they also hang up with a really good feeling about what we helped them with, whether we were able to meet their need or not. So if you have enough information to get started, great. Is there any other need I can help you with today? What we tend to do is just that last sentence. Is there anything else I can look up for you today? And sometimes I think that's taken by our callers as, oh, well, my specialist is done. You know, now they want me to move on. Whereas if we preface it with that summary of the referrals we've given, it's a real good segue into is there anything else, but it also really, most importantly, sets them off on a path. They now have the first step, the first idea in their mind of what they're going to do next, which is a really helpful thing for them. And they go away feeling helped. And then this is kind of off kilt here, but it's worth mentioning because most people miss the most important part of the closure, which is information does not work out for you, please call us back. And that closes the loop for us. I want to know if I'm sending somebody on a wild goose chase, and I don't ever want to again, you know. So that is the whole close. You know, the whole close is meant to meet several AIR standards, but that one right there is the most important. Okay. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a PowerPoint of a webinar that I went to years ago. I'm going to start with the front page so you can see how old it is. But I started using this with some of our newer trainees more recently because we are beginning that mind shift of we're no longer assessing a need, delivering a phone number, and saying goodbye. assessing a need, finding it's unmet, apologizing, and saying goodbye. We really need to develop more soft skills around communicating with our folks. So based on this webinar from some AIRS folks throughout the country, presented a couple of years back, I kind of morphed this. The lead agency on this at that time was a blended INR, which is a suicide prevention line as well as the 211 hotline. And her lead slide is, it's all about the culture. And of course, we've been talking about this culture change now for at least 6 months, and the fact that we need to fulfill a greater role in our community by working more closely with our callers and helping them develop plans, helping them problem solve, not only helping them with the immediate need, but maybe discover what's underlying it and getting them on the path to stop the cycle that keeps them ending up at food pantries, and that sort of thing. So it is very much a culture change for us. It's the direction United Way wants us to move in, and it's very much something that the county has made very clear in their funding they want to see us doing. We get a lot of programs funded through the county. The reason we created the Tier 2 is so that we can go that extra mile for callers, okay? But that doesn't undermine the kind of work that we can do on that Tier 1 level as generalist information and referral specialists. So we all know, if we ever dealt with anybody or if we're in any other form of social work, that referrals are just the tip of the iceberg. That somebody calls for food and they have a mess going on in their lives, okay? I'm not sure we want to fully get into that mess, but we do want to delve enough so that we can provide some alternative suggestions when we run into unmet needs. Helping when there is no help, basically. And our database, as extensive as it is not a magic wand. It can't pull resources out of the hat. They're either funded in the community and people can be eligible for them, or they are not. And that can be a little cut and dry. You know, it's definitely a static piece of equipment that we have. It's ever-changing, which is what's great about it. It's always updating, but it still can invent something that just isn't there. So when there's limited resources, South Carolina developed a cheat sheet. It has 7 steps. We're going to go through those 7 steps. I'm not going to throw another cheat sheet at you guys. You have enough scripts and your main cheat sheet to begin with. So the first step that they want everybody to pay attention to and that we need to begin thinking about is to be honest from the very beginning. And I don't mean in terms of, oh, rent is hard to come by. No, you don't want to lead with that. You want to lead with the, I'll look for that program for you. And then you go about the business of the normal protocol of moving yourself through a call. But be honest from the very beginning and talk about what you're hearing with people. I hear you are having problems paying your bill. I'll see if there are any agencies assisting with that bill right now. Let me ask a few questions to find anything that I'm able to provide that service. Number 2, if they don't qualify for any of these resources, you want to connect with your caller and understand. And how do we connect as humans? Mostly through our feelings. Seems like I don't have anything for that. I can hear you are feeling stuck. I'm sorry. The programs we have listed aren't assisting with that bill right now. I hear that's frustrating for you. I can hear you're disappointed at that. Sometimes you deliver things from the match list and your caller tells you that they've tried them all already and that there truly isn't anything for them. That's all you have right now. You can't pull something out of the hat. So what can you do? You can say you're sorry and you can recognize their feelings. And then that should hopefully warm them up to letting you try and empower them to talk about some problem solving. And you want to start with empowering your caller to come up with their own options. If the caller isn't able to come up with their own options, we can ask them questions to explore, see if there's any other groups or people they might know about in their community. You know, what have you done in the past? What do you think is your next step? What have you tried so far? What options are you thinking of? Do you have anyone or any place that could help you? Who can you turn to in a situation like this? Have you ever been in a situation like this before, and what did you do? Those kinds of questions really get people thinking and get you both talking about some problem solving, hopefully. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. If they don't know and they're willing, you can help them brainstorm. I can hear you're feeling lost right now. Once again, you're leading with that feeling that you're getting from your caller. Any people, job that can help. Agency, you, your family, your friends are connected to, or organizations that you or your family or friends have been connected to in the past. This really gets them thinking about other agencies, other issues in their lives. Well, I once went to a mental health agency, and I'm starting to feel like I could use medications again, and who knows where it would take you in the conversation. But in addition to brainstorming and trying to develop rapport through acknowledging feelings, we can suggest things that we know low-income people can qualify for. And maybe this caller isn't aware of that. The utility help, well, and rent money, not in our community these days, but you know, sometimes if a specific incident happened and it's a family, maybe they're not aware of PRC. I'm always surprised at how many people aren't aware of that program. But we can also suggest to callers, you know, that we can save them money in other areas, food stamps, food supplies, prescription assistance. Often when you get callers to talk and open up a little bit, you find that there's a very expensive prescription that needs to be paid for every month. Or you find that they were on food stamps, but they got dropped for this reason, and it's such a hassle to apply again. But, you know, maybe applying for those food stamps could save them $60, $120 a month, you know, and maybe they just need somebody to remind them of that. So can we look, one of the things you might say is, can we look at helping you with food to save money and help with your utility and rent bill? If not, don't push your callers. Sometimes they're just not ready to look at the next step with you. The most important thing is that you acknowledge their feelings and you tried to open up that conversation. Callers can be very resourceful on their own, and they find ways of paying their bills that we don't think of. And we discover that when we do follow-ups. You know, hey, did you call XYZ agency and make an appointment with them? No, my father came through for me and paid the other half of my rent. You know, no, I did this, I did that. I borrowed from my employer. He's taking it out in $50 increments as we go on, whatever. But you're always going to want to acknowledge those feelings. Sounds like you're feeling really alone. Do you want to talk about what you will do if you don't get the bill paid? Okay? Because you want to explore that for them. Because the reality is most of our callers, or a good percentage of our callers, are kind of, their last dime was 2-on-1. And if we can't come through for them with something like rent, what are they going to do if they get evicted? You know, what's the plan? Is there family? Is there friends? How much do you make? How much is your rent? I talked to a lady not too long ago whose income was a little over $700 a month on disability, and she paid $500 a month in rent. You know, she is never going to get anywhere ahead. You know what I mean? She's always going to be behind on something with that kind of an income. So maybe that opens the door to talk about getting on the waiting list for some kind of privately subsidized housing. So you want to try and be thinking about all of those things that you already know about are in that database, and try and open up that conversation so that it will take you to one of those places. And then I can hear how desperate you are, and it sounds like you've run out of options. What will happen if you can't pay your bill? Okay. We all know that people in public housing and some situations of privately subsidized housing need to keep current with their electric. Being without electricity is a violation of their lease, okay? So these are the kinds of things that you're hoping will come to the surface, and you can begin to talk with them about other options. You know, what are your options if your electricity is off? Can you stay in your house? Anywhere you can go? Have you looked into the local shelters, families or friends to stay with until you can get this resolved? And then the last one is the one we usually turn to very seldomly, and that's very appropriate. A few of our callers are actually on the brink of thinking about suicide, but you don't want to dismiss it. Ask about it if you hear suicidal risk signs. Remember, you might not hear anything verbally, but you might pick up on a feeling or a desperate, you know, statement that they might make. When someone has no support, they've reached their last, you know, what's the use in going on? I'm so depressed. This is so stressful. I just want to go to sleep and wake up and have all of this be fixed for me. You want to come right out with it. Sounds like you're feeling really desperate and times are hard. We learn in training that sometimes when people feel desperate, they think about suicide. Are you thinking about suicide? Okay, it brings it right out on the table to talk about. I think having that heart for your caller helps your ear listen. You know, we're all very, very trained at speaking articulately, delivering information well from the database, thinking about the assessment, thinking about what's in the database, what the taxonomy term is. So we're using our voice, we're using our brain, we're using our ears, but are we truly listening and hearing that caller? And is our heart behind it? Because listening rightly done is the most significant thing you can do for a person. Have you ever had any of your callers say, oh, that's okay, you know, when you really can't do anything for them and you've really tried, and established a good rapport with them, and you say, gee, I'm sorry, I'm not able to find anything for you. Have you ever had them say, that's okay, you listened?
Oh, yeah. I've had them say that.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's okay, you answered. You answered the phone and you talked to me. But listening is the business that we are in, and we, you know, can do it, I think, always better and better and better. So having a heart for it, I think, is one of those things that we need to develop. And then, yeah, she had her last slide is the starfish, you know, and throwing them back in, and it made a difference to one. I'm sure everybody has heard that one. And if you haven't, it's right there on your screen. But I think we hear it over and over again in the 211 world, because we deal with 80, 90 calls in a really busy day, 50, 60 in a busy night. And, if you make a difference with that one, it made a difference with that one. And there isn't any denying that. There isn't any feeling bad about that. So, Caroline gave a really good presentation, and I hope I touched on a lot of the things that she did in terms of helping when there is no help. And then kind of a younger agency up in Toronto was part of this webinar, and they have a specialized information and referral for kids, at-risk children. And they obviously have a resource database very similar to ours. They want to make sure that they support their counselors, and you guys always have our support. I hope you know that. We're always trying to discover best practices, and if you have better ideas than we do, let us know. But their operation is focused on counseling and then information and referral, to kind of tidy up the loose ends. And I thought it was kind of interesting because our focus is information and referral, and we're certainly not getting into counseling, but we do want to get into rapport building and recognizing feelings so that we can help people, delve into some of the deeper issues and find resources for them when we've found that their initial need can't be met. So they're in the business also of empowering people to go out and solve their own problems, recognize their own strengths, offer choices from the community resource information, and then discuss the pros and cons and let the person make the decision themselves. And I thought that those were all points at least worth bringing up. And to support your caller in their decision-making process. Well, when you are ready. I'm not ready to deal with that right now. I'm just going to go to a food pantry. Well, when you are ready, we're here. We're here 24 hours. Goes a little bit more to operations. And then the takeaways here are to recognize gaps, large or small, and make plans to fill them. We've already started on that path months ago by restructuring our unmet needs section in Refer, making it far more detailed, and making sure that everybody is well trained on hearing those unmet needs and saving them as part of the call, because those are the kinds of reports that our ReferNet system can provide to future funders, to United Way, in any capacity whatsoever. Our new website dashboard is a by-the-minute updated kind of ticker tape on what social services looks like in our community in terms of types of calls and all of that stuff. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely go online, to 211oh.org and take a look at that dashboard. It's pretty nifty. The website is, our new and improved website is almost ready too. So I know that United Way is pretty excited about rolling that out. It's going to be a lot more user-friendly for people to find resources. And then include clients, we call them callers, when possible, to determine what they need and how you can help. You tell me, how can I help, sometimes is what you might want to say to your caller. Work with your own strengths, your organizations individually, and recognize what you have to offer. And I think this is when we really need to think about, okay, this is a housing issue. Let's ask some questions about housing. How long have you lived there? What's your relationship with your landlord like? Oh, really? This is the only time you've been in trouble, and you've lived there for 8 years. Okay. Have you talked to them about it? you think they'd be interested in mediation? You know, your mind as well as your heart going out to this person and trying to come up with brainstorm a solution for them. Help to build a supportive environment amongst staff. I hope we've done that, and we'll continue to do it. And then try and remember there's always some form of help. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. So that was the message from Toronto in this presentation. And then their final quote is, research shows that an effective outcome in therapy involves, amongst other things, a hopeful therapist. So sometimes when our callers can't be hopeful, we need to step in and be hopeful for them. There was one more presenter here, the Agency on Aging, and I will kind of buzz through. They focused on an example of somebody who had received an electric shutoff, was unable to pay for it, and they also had received a denial letter from Medicare Part D. And they were confused and very difficult to deal with. So his example was, is the client actually ineligible? Okay. The major question, and how often do our callers get confused with the process that they have to go through to apply for some of the services that they need? And are they really ineligible? If you see something on your screen that shows you that person's eligible, and they're telling you no, and they told me I'm not, what was their reason, right? Ask what their reason was. Delve a little bit. Oh, they sent you a letter? Can you pull it out? Can you read it to me? They might be completely misinterpreting. You know, that letter might be telling them that they were denied because they were short on paperwork. And as soon as they come up with ABC documents, they'll be fine. So you have to ask yourself, is that client eligible? You have to ask your client and delve into that. Is kind of the point that he is trying to make. And sometimes when we come up with some small solutions for people, they're just as good as coming up with, you know, the major thing that they've asked us for. So keep that in mind. And then feel free to advocate on behalf of your callers. You want to make that happen for them. If everything points to the fact that they should get this service, help them. Either escalate that call to a supervisor if it's not a healthcare, fatherhood, or veteran issue, or escalate to those programs if it is, because that's exactly what the people on our Tier 2 lines are going to do. They're going to advocate on behalf of their caller. But you should feel empowered also to advocate on behalf of your callers. And if you think it's going to be too time-consuming or your inability because of a part-time status won't let you follow through, escalate it. Escalate it to the supervisor. They can leave a message in the QA line if it's after hours, or we can call them back. Send an email. Somebody's gonna follow up with you the next business day, and we're going to see if we can help you figure out what went wrong here. Turn money requests into service requests. We often just get fixated on the fact that somebody needs money to pay for something. There might be other services out there that can help alleviate that pressure. And so you want to kind of make that a little bit of a mindset change too, and think about the services that are out there that could fill the gaps, as opposed to here's the money, now it's fixed. Because we know rarely with our type of callers does the one-time money really fix it all. You know, next month, 2 months, 3 months later, often they're back in the same position again. Because we have an unraveled, or we haven't delved down underneath the tip of the iceberg to discover what the real issue is, like somebody who makes only $700 paying $500 for rent. So there is a difference between advocacy and case management. We just want to advocate to make sure people get their services. Change is going to come. It's coming. Oftentimes you need to ask yourself what's the linchpin of the client's problem, of the caller's problem. What's at the crux of this? Do you think things can continue like this? People in crisis have trouble with the long view, so we need to sometimes help them look at it. And once again, Nick repeats, one big thing is the same as a few small things. People forget that life can be joyful, safe. You know, remind them. Sometimes we just have to have them think about what they do have. Advocate, encourage. Yeah, do the basic needs shuffle. You can't find the one need, but maybe you can fulfill it with another, or at least help it along to another stage. Verify what they say to you. Ask about it. Don't just accept it at face value. Any questions?
No.
You guys hear the vacuum cleaner coming at me?
No, I can't hear that.
Okay. Let me get our script back up here for just one more review before we're done. So I encourage everybody to use the script, and if the words in the script don't roll off your tongue, rewrite them for yourself, because everything in this script hits a milestone of where you want that call to go in terms of reassuring your caller, delving in. You know, when it's a met need, those are our easy ones. You know, do you have pencil and paper to write this down? Okay, here it comes. No? Okay, I can text it, I can email. Those are the easy ones. It's the unmet needs that need the work, the problem solving, the brainstorming, troubleshooting, a conversation with your caller. And, you know, this may not be a comfortable thing to say. Think of a way to say it yourself with an unmet need to open up that conversation. And then go ahead and summarize. You know, I've given you this and this. I've given you a couple of food pantries and a few places to go for coats and boots. Do you feel comfortable moving ahead? Do you feel you have enough information to get started? Any way you want to put it. And then begin with your closing, which is there anything else that I can help you with? Thank you for calling 211. If you need further assistance or this information does not work out, please call us back. We're here 24/7. Tell you the truth, I don't care if you tell them we're here 24/7. Most of our callers already know that. Any questions, comments, concerns, worries? How comfortable are you think?
I'm pretty comfortable with it. I mean, sometimes the caller is like, you know, gruff and just wants one thing and that's it, and, you know, and it's hard to engage them, and, you know, yeah. But, you know, I can pretty much read them, you know, so I don't push too hard on those. But other ones, yeah.
Yeah. It's the other ones that
exactly.
Right. And usually those folks are the ones that, you know, the gruff ones, the quick, give me the phone number ones, are the ones that know the social service scope pretty well themselves. You know, so, yep, the best we can do is reassure them, yep, I'm going to find that for you, and make sure they're on the right track in that situation.
And I just wanted to say that I've noticed in Summit, like Summit and Stark, they're used to, let's say, a different kind of service.
Oh, yeah.
They're used to, well, so-and-so will look up this number for me, and I get a lot of that kind of stuff. And I'm pretty firm on, I'm sorry, I can give you the free directory assistance. So, you know what I mean? It's the
Yeah.
culture is definitely true. I definitely get a different feel from those callers than I do from, most of the ones that call us.
Yeah. Yeah. The looking up outside of the database is a slippery slope that I
Mm-hmm.
guarantee we will never get into. Unless we came up with a completely different program like we did back in the Bank of America days where we had to Google stuff for folks because it was a
Sure.
nationwide program. But yeah, it's a smaller community. It's a smaller 211 service.
Gotcha.
They don't deal with the volume that we deal with, but still, that's that is the culture that they are used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much of it is hand-holding. I know before I came to Cuyahoga from Geauga, we did a lot more for our callers. You know what I mean? Because we ran those financial assistance programs. And so we got to know our callers a little bit as clients. And we had the time, to spend with them. And we want you guys to feel as though you have the time with the callers who need it, who have those basic unmet needs. What are you going to do if you can't find rent? What are you going to do? Do you have a plan? You don't want to be accusatory. Well, why don't you have rent? Or anything like that, but you want to show that heart, that concern. You come right out with it. I'm concerned about you. What will happen if you don't find the rent?
Mm-hmm.
Has this ever happened to you before? Those kinds of things. Okay. Chris just wants me to reiterate, and this might be a moot point with you guys, but that those Randolph, Suffield, Atwater food pantry referrals, they always need to come through the web form, even when they've forgotten their appointment, and the appointment is later today. She'll get back to them. It just has to be, saved in refer and then delivered through that web form to her, as opposed to putting anybody through to her extension. Okay. Well, as usual, the 6 o'clock is my calmest. But, quickest, I'm not complaining. It's the end of the day. Todd did schedule 16 people into the 9 o'clock session, so that was a little intense, but we got through it. If you have any questions or concerns afterwards, just shoot them my way. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Internet. Bye, Candace.
Bye.
Bye.